everyone. I hope you guys are having a great day. We are here with Makerspace Making the 4 C's Creativity. We're going to bring Jessica Clawson from Palm Beach Gardens High and Rebecca Radic soon to the table. Before we begin, let's do some housekeeping. You can use the chat box on the right to communicate. If you've never used it before, just click inside. Make sure you're logged into your YouTube. We are having some issues with the chat. If there's continuous issues, we might have to shut it down, so be patient with us. Please, if you have yet not liked and subscribed down below to this channel, we would greatly appreciate it. If you ever need some help inside the chat, there are our experts with a little wrench next to their name. And of course, if you're on social media, please be spamming that EdTech conference with our hashtag at EdTechPBC and the hashtag PBC Tech Conference. Again, if you've ever been to our Palm Beach County conferences, EdTech conferences before, we've always had a makerspace that allowed us to be hands-on and lively with all of those robotics and hands-on. Well, we couldn't exactly do that due to the virtual setting. So we wanted to bring you a little bit of makerspace with the 4 C's here on our digital platform and have all of our presenters show you different ways that we can still do a makerspace, but digitally. So with that being said, we are going to bring up our presenters. So again, we have Rebecca and we have Miss Jessica. So you guys can introduce yourselves.
I'm Jessica Clawson. I'm a secondary science teacher at Palm Beach Gardens High School, and I'm going to be talking about 3D printing and Legos today.
And I'm Rebecca Radic. I am the librarian at Atlantic High School, and I'm going to be talking about Book Bentos and drawing apps today. Awesome. And we are super excited to bring creativity to you and your students. And really the goal of our presentation is to help you find new ways to move your students from just passively interacting with content to producing their own content.
Yeah, and actually being able to create and manipulate in the content and the materials in different ways so that different students can get different ideas on the table or share different ideas different ways and really go after different learning styles. All right. So we are going to get started with 3D printing, one of my favorite things. We haven't really been able to do it in the last year and a half, but it is one of my favorite things to bring into the classroom. I really like doing this because it allows students to bring in problem-solving skills and creativity while manipulating material and being able to really have that hands-on tactile connection with it. So it can be overwhelming and a little bit daunting to get started, but there are a couple of websites that you guys can use that will help you and your students bring it into the classroom without it feeling overwhelming and difficult. So the first one is Thingiverse. Thingiverse is through MakerBot, which is one of the 3D printers that we actually have in our media center that we utilize. And Thingiverse for Education really does a nice job of breaking down different projects by grade level and topic. So I am a science teacher, and so I filter it by science, but they have robots, and we've got a weather station, a 3D printed weather station that also incorporates things like you can do circuits and other like electronics and things like that. You've also got some magnetic stuff. It just updated because it's a little different than it was this morning. An interactive animal cell. You can have your students print, identify different organelles. You can have them utilize 3D printing to create robots. You can 3D print pieces for manipulatives. We all know, some of us know that manipulatives for science can be really expensive from some of the bigger companies. So you can have your students print their own manipulatives to use in the classroom. And it brings that extra level of engagement as well as creativity to the classroom for them. Some test tube holders. We all need test tube holders in science. So this is a great way to get started with 3D printing through Thingiverse without having to create your own 3D print from scratch. So I really like utilizing this as an introduction for my students. There's so many things, and it's crowdsourced. So it is from other educators and other students. So you really get that sense of community that we talk about in science as well. The other website that I really like and I think is fantastic is Tinkercad. Tinkercad is it's a CAD drawing web-based application, but it's very easy to use. It has classes. It has, you can learn about it. There are galleries, so you can also pick designs like I've done here. This is a dragon genetics activity I will talk about in a couple of minutes. But you also have the opportunity through Tinkercad that you don't through Thingiverse to learn how to utilize a CAD drawing type of application. So you can, tinker with it. It opens up the application. Give it a second. And it brings a 3D design up on your makerspace, your virtual makerspace. And this is what you would see or your students would see. So you have basic shapes and you've got instructions. If you want it, you can manipulate what you see or what direction you see it from. It's very user friendly. So it's a really, really nice way to introduce that type of manipulation and activity with your students to kind of get them started to think outside of the box, but also be able to produce a product. So there's two websites that I like to use the most. An example of an activity, like I said, I did this a couple of years ago, pre-COVID. There is an old activity that biology teachers really like to use called dragon genetics. We traditionally give them a dragon egg with chromosomes, half from mom, half from dad, and they have chromosomes for certain characteristics. And traditionally, what they would do was take these characteristics, dominant and recessive, and they would sketch what their dragon would look like based on what they've learned from our genetics unit. Well, we took it one step further and we 3D printed our dragons instead. So they were able to, someone else created these shapes on Tinkercad, and I was able to get my students into Tinkercad. They were able to put their pieces together, whether it had a short neck or a long neck, a curved tail or a straight tail, etc., based on their chromosomes. And then they were able to 3D print their dragon as part of a project, a team project. So they were able to get in and manipulate that and work with the Tinkercad program. And then they got to have something, they got to make a product and take it home with them. So that was, they really enjoyed it. That was a lot of fun for me too. So that's 3D printing in a nutshell. There's so much more to it. We had teachers do an environmental teacher did a sustainable city using Legos and 3D printing. I'll be utilizing 3D printing later this year for our egg drop. They're going to have to make some component of their egg drop out of 3D printed material. We're also going to utilize them for our Rube Goldberg machines as well. So there's so many ways that you can bring it in, and that's just for science. But even art, you can bring in. We've got a pumpkin for Halloween. You can create gears that move. Really, the limitations are endless. There really are none. If you can think of it, then you can create it. It's a very, very, there's a wide variety of things that you can do. I really, really enjoy it. So that's 3D printing in a nutshell. Rebecca is going to talk to you guys about Book Bentos now.
Hey, Rebecca, you are muted. That is just like the saying for 2020, 2021, right? It's our motto these days.
All right. As I was saying, I am a librarian, so anything where you can bring books and technology together, I'm just all about it. If you don't know what a traditional bento is, these are Japanese lunch boxes that pretty much compartmentalize all your different types of food. You can see an example of that in the top right of my slide here. So how we apply that to books is to bring the separate compartments around our books. So we're really taking, for the secondary level, your book reports to the next level. For the elementary level, you're introducing students a way to visually represent the themes that are going on in their books. Okay, wow, that's not good. Okay, so here's a few examples of book bentos. Now, when this idea started, you'll see the sun is also a star, is actually a student came and put all of these physical objects around the book, took a picture of it, and imported that into ThingLink and connected links based on what those elements represented. But I'm going to show you how to do the same thing with digital slides, because the thing about that is it's a lot easier to do at the elementary level. You might not have a globe hanging out around your house, and you can do it from everywhere and collaborate. So really, we're just giving students a new way to interact with literature, with technology, with creation. And I'm going to show you hands-on how to do both of these things using Google Slides. So I'm going to open a blank Google slide, and I'm going to address the elementary way to do this first, because elementary, they need a little more than a high school student would. High school, I would make them create the entire thing themselves. But for elementary, you kind of want to give them the start off. So what I'm going to do is, from a blank slideshow, I'm going to go in and edit the master and to put the bento box in place so the students don't have to. So the way we do that is under slide, edit theme. This used to be called edit master. It's now called edit theme. And you'll notice all of these master slides here are exactly the types of slides that you can add in your presentation. That's where those slides come from. So what we're going to do is go back to slide, edit theme. And I'm just going to remove all the extra slides because your elementary students are not going to need those. Now I'm going to keep this slide blank so I can reuse this for high school. So for the main header slide we usually have, I'm going to take out the text, and instead I'm going to insert an image, and I'm going to search directly from the web because I can do everything from right inside Google, which makes it easy. Other things you could do are use stock photo websites and save them to your device and import them. But why not search right within Google Slides? You know, everything here is not going to have copyright issues. So I'm just going to search bento box. We'll see if we get any good ideas here. Now, these all have foods in them, no surprise, but I think I can work with that. So I'm going to insert this bento box. And again, I'm making the master slide. I'm giving this to the so they don't have to create this on their own. Now I'm just going to resize this to fit the slide. And as an elementary, I might also put the book in place. So let's just say we're talking about the book Roy Digs Dirt. So I'm going to take that image from my computer because I already have it saved. Because I got it off Fame's website, and I'm going to resize it to fit into our bento. Now I'm actually just going to cover up 2 of the bento boxes since it's an odd shape, and I don't really need my students to come up with 9 different things. All right, so we're going to go one step further and make it even easier for your elementary students by inserting image placeholders. Now, these placeholders, when your students go to edit, they're going to see that picture and they're going to just one click insert a picture instead of having to know where and how to insert a picture. So this is really at the lowest level that we can do that. I'm just going to do 3 for now. And then to get out of the edit master, all I have to do is click to this left area where the real slides are. And now you'll see if I wanted to insert a slide, the only options for your students are another bento or that blank slide. And you'll see also, now this is what you would share via Google Classroom with your students. You could have a group of students making this, or you could have each individual student making this, but this is what they're going to see. They're going to see this blank picture screen, and they're going to know all I have to do is click the picture, search the web, and then I, as the student, will come up with what parts of Roy Diggs Dirt are important into this book. So Roy talks about digging up buried treasure. So I might find a treasure box. Let's insert this one. This looks cool. And it's automatically going to go there. You'll notice that this treasure box had a transparent background, so you can still kind of see that food. If I wanted to, I could change that out. And you see the student can still manipulate these items even though I placed them there for the student, because they're just a placeholder. Another thing Roy talks about is taking a bath, how he hates taking baths. So I might bring in a bathtub here. And then, oh, that also had a transparent background. Okay. And so you see, I'm starting to drag elements from the story around the story. So I would take this a step further with my elementary kids and have them present it on the smartboard. And you can say, Roy Diggs Dirt talks about buried treasure. Well, what would I do with buried treasure? Or Roy really hates baths. I hate baths too. So you're getting your students talking about literature, getting them to understand what's important, and just getting them comfortable speaking in front of others. So that's how I would do it at the elementary level, using the master slide to give them the bento box. And it doesn't have to be that particular one, because I'll show you with the high school level, I would make everything from scratch. So say we had a book like All American Boys, and as a high school student, I want to find a really good background, again, right within Google Slides. And I'm going to insert that as my background, make it large, and then everything that I put on my bento box is going to be on top of this. Of course, I need an image of the book I'm talking about, which is stamped. Ooh. Oh, I did All American Boys. Let's find stamped right quick. You can get these images from your Destiny catalog on campus. Stamped Jason Reynolds. I apologize for not having this earlier. This other book and not stamped, so I'm just going to save a quick one off Google. But again, you can get these copyright free from Destiny catalog. Okay, so let me insert the book that I'm talking about. Oh, there we go. And this is going to be the centerpiece. Now you have a lot of formatting options with photos. Anytime you click an image, you'll see format options at the top, and it brings you to this menu on the side. The size and rotation and position, those things you can do manually, so I don't really use those two. But sometimes it's interesting to recolor your images just to get a little more artistic. I love using this drop shadow because you can see it just brings depth to your presentation, so it's a higher level of presentation. And you can do that to any image. Let's insert some images that deal with the book. This time I'm going to search the web. I know the author is Jason Reynolds. Let's get a quick photo of him in there. Ooh, that's large. And this was actually based off the work of Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, so I'm also going to insert an image of him. Okay, insert that next to him. There we go. The book talks a lot about Webb Du Bois, so we'll do a picture of him. Put that guy in. Now he's only going to be black and white because he's a little older. And the book talks about racism. So I don't know, for racism, I would probably find more of an image that I could do something like this because it also talks about slavery. Okay. Now, as a high schooler, you don't get away with just doing these images like you can in middle school and in elementary and present them. What we have to do is go further in our research of these things. So I would insert a blank slide where I would talk about the authors, Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi. And then I would give my thoughts on that. I would also probably do a book review of the main thing. And I might link some other nonfiction articles. So how I'm going to link these things is my book review is going to show up when I click on Stamped. So what I need to do is click the photo of Stamped and insert a hyperlink. And just like I can link to any website, I can also link to slides. So I believe this is slide 1, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, Jason Reynolds. I'm going to hyperlink him to where I talk about the authors. Ibram X. Kendi, the same thing. Webb Dubois, though, I'm going to link to a Wikipedia article on him or some other nonfiction article. And I will apply that link. And then when I go to present this, when I click on the photo, it's going to take you to that slide, but it's not going to take you back. So teach your students to go one step further with this. I think I have this link wrong. Let's edit that link. Okay. So what I like to do is I like to insert an image of a house clip art. If you use the word clip art, it's going to get you that cartoony looking house. I'm just going to pull one in here. And what I like to do is resize it to the very bottom and hyperlink that house back to my very first slide. And if I just Control-C copy, Control-V paste, no matter how many slides I put in my presentation, just Control-C copy, Control-V paste that exact same home screen. Now, when I go to present my thing, I can go to the author pages, and then I have a link to jump back home. Then I can go to this Wikipedia article. You can jump back and forth between your slideshow and really bring the report aspect, that higher level thinking, into your content creation of the bento boxes. Okay. So let me know if you have further questions on that. But for now, we're going to switch over to Legos.
Hi, everybody. I'm back. We did have a question about 3D printing from Andy Goldstein. His question was, how do you handle printing out student work with a class of 30 to 35 students, given that it could take overnight to make just one print? That's a really good question, and definitely something that you have to take into consideration when you bring 3D printing into the classroom. So when we did, I'm going to go back to that project real quick, just so if anybody wasn't here, they could see it. With this project, we made the, I want to say dinosaurs, the dragons, sorry. We made the dragons fairly small, and we did this over a couple of days, and my students worked in groups of 2. And they had to have their dragon completely put together before they brought it over to the print. And I did end up kind of loading files during my planning periods. I would come down and I'd work in our makerspace, and I'd kind of rotate. They just had to share their file with me, so I was able to print it for them. So it does take a little bit of finagling and finesse, but I also had an alternative assignment for them if they were finished. So the groups that were able to do this and print first, we came down to the media center for 2 days. The ones that printed first, Our makerspace is separate from the rest of the media center, so they were able to utilize other parts of the media center to work on the next lesson or the review that I had for their test or what have you. So you do have to kind of finagle time, but I noticed that groups or partners, depending on how big your class is the best way to go about like 3D printing, especially when you have 30 to 35. This class wasn't quite that big. But great question. I'm sure other people were thinking the same thing. So thank you for asking. All right, so back to Legos. As you guys can tell, I like having hands-on things. I love the Book Bentos. I did interactive slides and stuff with my students last year when we were virtual. But now that we're back, I really want to be able to use manipulatives and be able to get the kids like back to hands-on and whatnot. So Legos is another great way to get their creative juices flowing. And you can kind of jumpstart that a couple of different ways. So Lego actually has a website for challenges. So for younger, I want to say that it's more directed towards this particular challenge website is directed more towards younger age groups or people who are just wanting to start getting that those creative juices flowing. So they're simpler ideas, but they have a lot of different options. They have a lot of different ideas for you to bring into the classroom and create. So just to get you started, you can utilize the Lego website. There's obviously a lot to choose from. Another place that you can get ideas from is the Lego for Education website. And this particular project is building a bridge. And so it would be really good for your secondary science, for physical science, and they have to test it. So they learn a little bit about bridges. You might bring in history. So you might want to coordinate with like your social studies or civics teacher and, depending on when they're learning about it, work together. But it gives you the entire lesson plan. So it gives you a debrief. It gives you a suggested model solution to help you kind of navigate your students if they're going, to provide suggestions. There we go. If they're kind of going one way or the other. It gives you suggestions on questions to ask your students and how how would you test it? How would you make sure it was safe? Things that they would have to take into consideration if they were an engineer engineering a bridge for the real world. So it's not just about let's build a bridge, which is awesome in and of itself, but also being able to make those real world connections, which is awesome. And carrying out evaluations, testing the bridge, how much load can it take before breaking, before it was deformed, before it fell over. Taking measurements in science is one of the things that we definitely hit a lot on. And so it's built into the lesson. So they don't just have higher level machines. This is 6 to 8. They have lessons for every grade. They have complete unit plans. They have individual lessons, and they all bring in some element of that STEAM, art and math, and obviously engineering, science, technology, which is really great. And it's all there for you. Again, you don't have to completely start from scratch, just like 3D printing. Lego does provide a lot of it for you. Some other ways that you can bring Legos or the Lego Challenge into your classroom is through Lego STEM Challenge cards. I'm a science teacher. For anyone who joined after, I'm a science teacher. So those are that STEM and STEAM connection is pretty important to me. So that's my presentations lean a little bit that way. But you can really bring this in anywhere. You can have challenge cards in history. You can have challenge cards in math. You can have challenge cards in art. You can really bring these in and tailor them to whatever you're teaching or whatever you're teaching that day. You can also do, especially for my elementary ed teachers, you guys have stations, and you could bring in a 30-day Lego challenge calendar to your kids and have it be one of your stations in your classroom or one of those open activities that you have in your classroom and really challenge your students on what they're building every day. I really like the idea of a 30-day Lego challenge, and I think I'm going to try and adopt that at some point this year, just to get the kids to be able to create somewhat freely and be able to put things in their head, ideas in their head down, not just on paper, but a 3D object. A couple of other ways that you can use Legos. These are my students actually yesterday. Ignore the homecoming decorations in the background. I had them build something. They had to work with the team. Oh, my lights went out. I had them work in small groups to build something. They had, it couldn't be bigger than your hand, and you had about a half an hour to come up with an idea. I had 2 tubs of Legos, and you and your partners had to build it and write a procedure, a detailed procedure on how you built it. After the 30 minutes was up, one of the team members took a picture of their final product. Then they tore it apart. They were very upset. I'm not gonna lie. They're like, no, my pretty, whatever it was. We had some turtles and we had some rocket ships, and they're like, no. But they had to take it all apart, put the Legos back in the bin, and I collected their procedures, mixed them up, and gave them to a different group. Then the other group had to follow that new procedure from somebody else and see if they could replicate their design. Some got close, others, most of them, not so much, but it was a really good way to show students why scientific procedures or procedures in general have to be very specific and very clear. Another way that you can use it is for 3D art projects. You could do this with math as well if you're doing tessellations, or if you're just working on a different, instead of 2D art, if you're working on 3D art or mixed media, you can make Lego walls. So those big flat pieces that are usually for like tables, you can affix them to the wall with those like 3M command strips and things, and let kids work on, you know, you can do it. Early finishers can go work on it. It can be a project in and of itself. Like this one over here was a project they put together, or you can have it be kind of a community wall where early finishers or whoever, or do it as a station again, can go and just add to it. And it just becomes this class being. It'll kind of take on a mind and an imagination of its own, which is really, really awesome. So those are some ideas for Legos, which again, another one of my favorites, just like 3D printing. Rebecca's gonna talk to you guys about drawing apps now.
Yes, and I do want to say to Donna in the chat, I'd love if you wanted to reach out to me about Book Bentos. We could talk about it more deeply. But I want to change my attention to drawing apps, because what better way to be creative and stress relief, get that mental break in the day, than to be able to draw? Well, I'm going to show you how to do some online drawing apps, Autodraw, Google Drawing, and Canvas. And these are the types of things that come of that. So this horse I drew magics itself to a real horse. You may have used Google Drawings in the past to put text on top of pictures within a report. I'm going to show you a little way more you can do with Google Drawings, actually. And then Canvas is just right up there, white space. So I have a hangman here, but I'll show you some other things you can do with that as well. So let's escape out of here and first go to Autodraw. I'm actually going to open a blank Autodraw. So if you wanted a demo, when you get to autodraw.com, it will go through it, but I'm just going to go to the start drawing. And if you have students that just feel like they are horrible drawers, horrible at art, please introduce this to them, because they are going to feel like artists after this. So they have this Autodraw pen at the top left, and you can just start drawing whatever you want. I'm going to attempt to draw a shark here. Okay, see, not such a good shark. But if you'll notice at the top, all of these little graphics start populating based on what I'm drawing. And the first one is a shark. So yay for your student, takes that sloppy shark you just saw me draw to this really professional looking shark in no time. You can even change the color of the shark. Oh, I need to select him first, then I can change his color. I can fill him in. No, I want to change. And then I can draw a whole underwater scene around him. So I'm going to go back to the auto draw. I'm going to draw a boat, hopefully, maybe a sailboat. There we go. So now I have a sailboat in water. Let's move the shark down below. I'm going to get just the regular drawing pen here and continue on with these waves. Let's draw a sun in the sky. So anytime I don't feel like I can draw the image, I can just auto draw what I can and get that nice, amazing, professional looking sun. So your students really have the ability to come in and just wow their drawings and really boost their confidence, because, hey, the computer knows what you're doing. You are drawing something right, but you look even better. Another fun thing to do on Autodraw is you can only have one open at a time. That's why I switched to the screen. But you can have kids play games on this. So we're not going to a website that already has Connect 4. I built my own Connect 4 set. And then now you can have your students just come in and start playing. And yeah, it's fun to go to a website where you can play these games. Checkers you could easily do on this, chess you can easily do. But when you have your students creating the boards, creating the pieces, now their understanding of that is going deeper. So my second drawing app I'm going to talk about is Google Drawings. You'll notice right away that there's a checkered area here and gray areas on the side. Everything in the gray area you are not going to see. You would have to move it over. Oh, I have a line tool selected. You'd have to move it over for it to be part of the visible picture. So this gray area is really good for just brainstorming ideas. Google Drawing can do so much. I could really spend an entire session just talking about this, but I do want to leave time for Q&A, so I'm going to try to get through this really quickly. Some things you can do are tessellations, tangrams, diagrams, tracking. Of course, you can pull in a graph paper into your homework and use the line tool and insert a graph directly into your homework, because you can pull Google Drawing either from the drive or from Google Docs and imprint it right inside of your homework or your report or whatever. Another fun thing you can do is trace images. Let's move you away. So if you see this cat on the right here, I've used the polyline tool to start tracing this eye. And what all I do is I tap when I want to change direction of my polyline. Oh, I made his eye plain there. But if you see, I can select and hold down one, press shift, hold down the other, and select all of these lines that I've made. And then bring that into my canvas. Not you, I wanted to bring all of you. And now you have your students tracing and creating their own versions of real animals. This eye is filled here, that's fine. I can make it transparent, or I can make it another color. We got a little nose here. So your students can design their own versions of things, their own digital versions based off real versions. For that reason, it's really good for logo designing. Let me get rid of all this. Another thing you can do is challenge your students to draw something using only shapes. So who can draw a giraffe using only shapes? This is similar to tangrams, but you're doing it digitally, right? So let me get a little rectangle here, a little rectangle here, shapes. Make this guy's neck. And then what kind of shape would I give him for a head? I don't know, we'll try this. Okay, so now I've drawn a giraffe using just rectangles. There's a lot of ways that you can manipulate these shapes. The good thing about shapes is you can also type inside of the shape. That's why that's why they're good for diagrams. So say I was using this as a diagram. What I would do is I would introduce a line. And you notice if I hover over this, these purple points come up. If I connect a line from one purple point to another, I have connected those two objects. So now anywhere I move one of the objects, those things stay connected. So that's really good for concept mapping, diagrams, family trees, things like that. You can connect your items like that. Of course, you can do all sorts of things that you can do in Sheets, change the line weight, the line style, the line color, the fill color. Actually, a lot of what you can do in drawings mirrors what you can do in other apps like Slides. One fun shortcut to use here that you can't really use other places is Control D, and that'll just duplicate your shape. So the other day I made a flower. I only had to make one petal, and then I can duplicate the petals and put them all the way around. Again, there's so much more you could do for these things. I want to go deeper than I'm currently able to. Hopefully I've given you a little more ideas, because I think this is one of Google's highest underutilized tools. I mean, you could really do fancy logos, embedding, and all the normal stuff that you would think of and more. So the Canvas app, canvas.apps.com, is just a whiteboard. You can play hangman, play tic-tac-toe. You're not going to run out of paper. One thing I do like about this app is at the top here, you can create new layers, and then you're editing the layer that you're looking at. So you can make online paper dolls. So I'm going to make a dress. Oh, I am not all the way solid. I'm going to change the opacity and make a paper dress for my doll. Fill that in. Cool. And then I'm going to add another layer and make a different dress. But to do that, I'm going to remove the view of that one. And the cool thing about this too is, other than the custom colors that it has, you can open the entire palette and really get every color that you want out of this thing. And then I can switch between my paper doll outfits. So that's just something fun to do. Of course, with all three of these apps, you can save the images and export them in other places. And with Google Drawing, you can collaborate just like you can on other Google apps. Okay, so
Awesome.
yes.
All right, guys. If you have questions, please put it in the chat. I really want to thank our presenters today. They did an amazing job. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at our Palm Beach County email addresses. Thank you, ladies. I'll bring you back up in just a second. What I'm going to be doing is I want you guys to take a look at our agenda. There's still fun for this afternoon. At 1:45 is our next Makerspace presentation, and that is on critical thinking. So please, if you haven't already taken a look at the technologyconference.palmbeachschools.org, you can see our whole lineup. You can see all the virtual sessions today, even the recordings. Please make sure you are doing EdTech, our handle at PBC, and hashtag PBC Tech Conference. We want to thank everyone at the EdTech team for putting this together. And one more time, I want to bring up our presenters. So I want to say, you guys can say your last remarks, and then we're going to head out for today.
I really, really like Autodraw, by the way. That was the first time I had seen it, because I'm a stick figure kind of gal.
Yeah.
So fantastic. But I hope you guys got some ideas and could take something away for how to bring a little more creativity into the classroom, or if you're already a creative person, different new ideas to bring into the classroom to keep going with your creativity. So we're really happy you guys were here and for joining us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and another takeaway is it's not just one area of the school that's deemed the creative area. Everyone in every curriculum can bring creativity to that. So I hope that you found some digital and hands-on ways to get creative this year, because our students are ready to get back into it.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, ladies, and have a good day, everyone.